Hello and welcome to Weekly News, brought to you by Crimson Wraith Productions. I'm your host, Moodie. The only story worth talking about this week has to be the big announcement of the new Marvel movie lineup for the next 5 years. We have a few surprises and a bit of speculation that's finally been confirmed. I'm going to run down through all the movies and share a few of my thoughts. First of all, we must remember that next year we still have the Avengers Age of Ultron and then Ant-Man coming out before we even start to contemplate these new movies that have just been announced starting in 2016. Drum roll please. May 6th, Captain America Civil War. We have known about this release date for a while now. Originally going head to head with Batman vs Superman until recently when Warner Brothers moved it forward to March of 2016, and now it even becomes more clear that this was the right move to make for Warner Brothers, as now we have this Captain America movie co-starring Evans and Downey going head to head as Iron Man versus Captain America, just like in the comic book event of the same name. This will also have Black Panther heavily involved, which I'll talk a little bit more later. This is going to be a very interesting event to see how this will affect the Marvel Cinematic Universe going forward. I think this is only going to be loosely based on the comic book. Next we have Doctor Strange, November 4th, 2016. This also has been in the works for a long time, with a lot of speculation around casting. It looked like Joaquin Phoenix was originally going to sign up for the role until negotiations fell over. But in the last few days, it's been reported that Benedict Cumberbatch is in final negotiations to take the role. Of course, a fan favourite choice, a bit of a safe choice, and this is the type of character he is actually a fan of. So he's going to put the work in. He's going to give the fans what they want, as well as adding some of his own flavour. This is also the first mystical entry into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's just adding in that magical content that we haven't quite seen yet, but we might get a glimpse of that with Scarlet Witch in the new Avengers movie. Rightio, 2017. We ramp it up with 3 movies this year. First up on May 5th, Guardian of the Galaxy 2. A bit of a promotion here for Guardians. They're giving it a nice big summer release, which is fitting because they are currently the #1 US domestic box office release for 2014. But we've got Hunger Games coming out next month, which will probably knock it off its perch a bit. Probably not a lot really else to say here about Guardians, considering we've only just released the first movie. As long as we get the same sort of fun and excitement and just that feel again in the sequel, and just escalate it a bit, just not much, you don't have to overly push it, just keep the fun levels up, I think they'll be in for another winner. Next on the roster is Thor Ragnarok on July 28th, so not long after the Guardians movie. I would be picking that this will probably be the last Thor movie. I think they'll wrap it up as a trilogy, especially going down the Ragnarok storyline, which is essentially the Norse apocalypse in their mythology, and it's probably perfect in some ways to go down that way because they've already confirmed that Loki will be back in this movie. And with all this cosmic space sort of dramas we're starting to get into a bit more, I would be picking that this will feed into the Infinity Gauntlet, because as we know, Thanos is looking for the Infinity Gems, and the Tesseract is one of these, and it is sitting in Asgard currently. So the events and the downfall of Asgard will probably lead into Thanos getting his hands back on that Tesseract. Well, that's my pick anyway, but we'll see what happens. To round up that year, we'll come back to Black Panther, who's going to get his first solo movie, and that's released on November 3rd. This will star Chadwick Boseman, who has just come out of playing James Brown in Get On Up, and this will be adding some diversity, which has been, I wouldn't say sorely lacking, because we have had black characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but this will be the first one that is led by a black character. He is the king of Wakanda. It's a fictional African country, which is very scientifically advanced. So it's sort of like Asgard in some retrospects, but set in Africa, and is the home of vibranium, which is at the moment being rumoured around the net will be what Ultron will eventually use as the metal for his final form. And that's sort of been hinted already in the trailer as well. There's hints there to Wakanda, and we know that some of the scenes have been filmed in South Africa, sort of hinting towards that. Now, 2018, we have Avengers Infinity War Part 1, and that comes out on May 4th. I'll wait till I get Part 2 before I start to talk about Infinity Wars, I think. But the next movie out is on again within a couple of months. It's Captain Marvel on 6th of July, which will be Marvel's first female-led movie. I wouldn't be surprised if we do get introduced to her earlier on, possibly in Avengers Infinity War Part 1, or even before that. As Captain Marvel, or Carol Danvers, is a fighter pilot who gets her powers from a cosmic force. I think it's the Kree or someone she gets her powers from, which essentially makes her Superman. Pretty much her power set is very similar to Superman. So really at the end of the day, she's going to be one badass chick. Of course she's human, but she gets her powers from a cosmic force. So that sort of leads her where she can actually fit into anywhere, really, that these stories are heading down. You can chuck her in Guardians of the Galaxy. You chuck her in Avengers. It's really probably a good fit for the character. Some people are a little bit upset that we're not getting a Black Widow movie first, but I personally feel that Black Widow is working quite successfully in these team movies and as a secondary character, because you got to remember Black Widow actually does not have any powers. She's only human, and take Captain Marvel again, pretty much Superman. So it leads you to probably a more cinematic sort of picture. Ending in 2018 is The Inhumans on November 2nd. A lot of people won't know what the Inhumans are. Pretty much in a nutshell, Marvel can't use X-Men, but they do have Inhumans, which is a very similar concept, and that's definitely showing in the comics, with a lot of characters actually changing from mutants into Inhumans, and because of the similar power sets. And it's not exactly the same. Inhumans, they get their powers from the Tyrian Mist, which is, I think it's to do with some aliens or something, and they put the mist out, and that gives people who are genetically compatible with the mist, gives them powers and things which are very similar to the mutants in the X-Men. And that's what's been rumoured, maybe what the Maximoffs, Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, maybe that's where they get their powers from. Maybe they're going to be Inhumans, because originally they're actually Magneto's children, but they can't use that because of rights issues. But we've also known about possibly an Inhumans movie for a while. There's been a few hints going around. The most obvious was probably from Vin Diesel tweeting some cryptic message back a wee time ago. This was after we knew he was playing Groot, that he might be playing the leader Black Bolt. This brings us to May 3rd, 2019, which is Avengers Infinity War Part 2. This will bring everyone and everything together. Essentially, this is probably going to be stop Thanos from taking over everything. it's really the end game, and really this will shape what's to come afterwards. Essentially, that would not surprise me that if half of these characters we've already been introduced just go away and end up dead somewhere, and will probably be a fitting conclusion as a lot of their contracts finish. You got to think back. This storyline of the Infinity Gauntlet, the Infinity Wars, started back all the way back in Captain America with the Tesseract. So it's going to be nearly 10 years build up into this one storyline. So it's quite interesting how this long form of storytelling is working. It could have gone terribly wrong. It could still go terribly wrong, but current Marvel are doing everything right. This is a very ambitious project overall, but with the track record Marvel have, I think everyone will be in for a treat. I know some people are still holding out for a Black Widow and Hulk movie, but I personally think that we'll see these characters in a large amount of these movies coming out. I think Marvel are moving more towards these team-based movies, having more characters we know make cameos or are involved in the A storyline going forward. So that's my little bit of a breakdown on the Marvel slate for the next 4 or 5 years. Interesting to see if that changes going forward, or maybe if Ant-Man is successful, maybe they'll chuck another Ant-Man in there. But 3 movies a year once you get through, once they get going, is pretty ambitious. If you'd like to make any comments or share your thoughts, just write them below. And any other news stories or reviews you'd like us to cover here at Crimson Wraith Productions. And don't forget to subscribe. I'm Tim Moodie, and that's your weekly news. Catch you later.